Okay, welcome to week one. So I'm going to now run you through the questions that will be the focus of this week, and in doing so give you a few dot points that we'll be covering under each question. Let's start. So the first question is, what is business analytics, business intelligence, reporting, and how are they different? Now, this is an important thing for you to know as an analytics professional, because everybody these days in every organisation is dealing with data. And so we can get a bit of sense of what we're trying to achieve, we want to know different types of technology and how they can be used. So these terms really reflect the history of data in decision-making organisations. So let's go through them. So reporting. So these are standardised reports to a limited number of users, and probably the first reports that came out in organisations were financial reports, and then moved into marketing reports. Then we had business intelligence, and so this has really been a dominant force within many organisations over the last 10 to 15 years. So this is an organisational capacity, usually centralised, to make reports, dashboards and ad hoc analysis available to multiple groups of users. So here you can see an evolution of the use of data in decision making, and lots of types of different data as well. And the next generation, which is where we are now, is advanced analytics, or called business analytics. You'll learn through this course terms like augmented analytics and various other things like that. But we put them all under the umbrella term business analytics. And so these are tools and techniques that are utilising statistical methods and advanced forms of data processing and visualisation in some very smart and interesting ways. So this is the first thing we want you to learn about in this course. So as well as understanding that, you need a bit of a background in actually what are the different types of decisions organisations make. Now this isn't a management course, and so there's lots of management theory and frameworks around understanding about organisational decision making, and if you have some time I encourage you to do that, particularly in different types of organisations. But we're just going to make it a little bit more straightforward here and talk about 3 levels of organisational decision making. So the first one is operational, day to day. And all of you who've worked in organisations or are working in organisations would have had dealings with operational decisions. So these might be, for instance, how many hamburger buns do we order? It might be where do we locate certain stock in a supermarket inventory? It might be how do we go admitting a student into an online course? So the focus in operational decision making is on efficiency. The next level of decision making is tactical. So this is really a medium term focus. So this is marketing people particularly interested in this. So this might be like, well, what are our markets looking like over the next 6 to 12 months, and how can we improve in some and maybe move out of others? Then finally we have the strategic level of decision making. So this is long term and especially focused on the external environment. Say an organisation like UniSA may be looking at, well, where are the workforce needs of the future going to land? And so how should we respond best for those? How can we have long-term industry engagement? What are our competitors doing in this space? And so you can see the focus for strategic decision makers is really on positioning. So being aware of those 3 levels is really going to be important throughout the course. Our next question then is, so in this first week, you really get a full sense of a bit of a cook's tour of business intelligence analytics. What are the different types of business analytical tools used? Now you may have used some of these already. So the most common one these days is really dashboards, and these come in many different forms. If you have an activity tracker like a Garmin or a Fitbit or something like that, you possibly already using a dashboard on a regular basis. If you track diet, if you've got a car with lots of electronics in it, they're also forms of dashboards. We also have standard reports, ad hoc queries, and then advanced analytics. So this is the type of technology that's starting to incorporate those statistical methods and predictive capabilities I'd mentioned previously. So now we start to bring together the tools, the technology, and that decision making as to why data and analytics is so important to organisational success. Now you may say, well, isn't that obvious? But unfortunately in many organisations it's still not obvious. They've either not invested in analytics or they've underinvested in analytics. And so this is something we also want you to get a sense of early on in the course and then dig deeper throughout the course. So the complexity and speed of business has changed significantly. And what also has happened is that through things like the internet and more sharing of data, consumers in particular, and they may be business consumers, have greater access and information ability to choose. If you think about, what you would have had to do in the past, if you wanted to buy a travel ticket, like an airplane ticket, you would have gone to a travel agent. If you basically wanted to choose a mortgage or look for a house, then you would have gone to a qualified real estate professional, and you would still do that. But now people are empowered to make a lot more use of information. And so what the marketers are now saying is that customer experience is becoming more and more crucial as a differentiator, because price, for instance, is not so much the case as a place where people will always choose between product A or product B, or service A and service B. So importantly then, with business becoming complex, with it speeding up, the ability for organisations to sense and respond to opportunities and threats becomes even more crucial. In this same topic, we'll start to touch on some frameworks that will help organisations understand the concept of industry disruption. We'll also touch on things like digital transformation, because these really are new times that businesses are having to operate in. Our last question for this week is, how has business analytics been used in different types of organisations? This is something you should keep in mind, and if you're already working somewhere, this is a good thing to keep you fresh as well. Obviously, large organisations like governments, large private sector organisations, universities, can invest significantly in analytics. However, analytics is something that's needed for all organisations regardless of size. It might be a small baker, for instance. So you want to be considering, well, how could the tools and the methods that you're learning in this course apply to small and medium organisations and in different sectors? We will give you some examples of this. So one thing you want to be aware of in this space is big data is basically here to stay and is really much in the mainstream. Beyond that, organisations have invested well in analytics. We'll also touch on things like embedded analytics. So this may be, for instance, a predicted drive-through time at a McDonald's drive-through. The Internet of Things and its ability to provide sensors about lots of different things, say temperature, manufacturing equipment, personal health, is going to change things significantly. And you may have even heard of things like Industry 4.0. And sharing with partners is increasingly important for organisations, particularly if you think about something like a large supermarket chain. Their ability to be able to feed back predictions of sales of lettuce to their supply partners will actually make it better for those partners and better for the customers. So how will you find out about this, as well as your own research throughout the textbook and various other readings? We'll be covering lots of scenarios. So they're the questions for this week. I hope you enjoy them, and we'll see you in week 2.